So, I mean, we have people, just to put in perspective, we have people saying that we've done more than a year's worth of progress for them in 2.5 hours. And that
Woo.
happens multiple times. Like, my goal is 3 months, 3 months and 2.5 hours. That's the promise I make.
What's up, everyone? Carmine Dinisco here on the launch pad. We got a great show planned today. We got a lot of good shows. We got some good guests coming up. Sometimes in the summer it's hard to get people in because they're traveling, they're going on vacation, they're doing things. But every once in a while, we'll get lucky and we get a good guest come in. Otherwise, it's just me sometimes talking, and you guys are sick of hearing me talk about stuff on my own. But let's bring him on. He's with my product developer, Mr. Brandon Manusov. I hope I say his last name correctly, but let's bring him on and see. Brandon, what's up, man?
Yeah, well, you nailed my name, and I'm excited to be here. We're trying to bring a new process to development and change the industry, hopefully.
Hey, man, that's what we do. Inventors, innovation, right? I mean, how can we not be trying to do something new here? We might as well just go to sleep, right?
Well, that's exactly my thought is like we spend so much time innovating products, but we don't necessarily always spend as much time innovating processes. And we really focused in on trying to make a better process to shortcut the normal amount of time it would take to produce a prototype and to get the concept out and test. So right away our clients can get into testing and iterating and going to market as fast as short as possible.
Let's jump back a little bit. A lot of our listeners are just going to be like, man, this is just insane because we all want to make things better, faster, stronger, get things done quick. A lot of inventors, and as we are, I don't want to say we're impatient, but we're very excited to get either our prototype or our product in our hands because then it makes it real. So let's talk a little bit, go back, how did you get started in this crazy business? And I say that because, man, we're all crazy doing this stuff.
Yeah, I had kind of a really weird growing up. My uncle and my dad were rocket scientists, both worked in a NASA program, and then my uncle went off and did a lot of stuff with aerospace. So growing up, I was always tinkering. I was always around that mindset of innovation and design and how to think as a designer. And then from there, I went off in the military and I worked in aerospace. So worked on jets and turbines and hydraulics and diesels and commercial HVAC, commercial heating. So I got a really good overall working knowledge of a lot of stuff around us. I'm obsessive with knowledge, so I just suck that stuff up like a sponge. And when I went to college, I actually started consulting for my professors. So I was in class and they kind of pulled me aside. One of them pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I want to put you on this project." This is at the faculty level that they were doing some research product. So I jumped on that, and during COVID, that got shut down. We ended up going to another project, and I went to about 3 projects, and finally, I'm like, this is now university sent me to another university to work on their projects, and I was like, I probably have a knack for this. So I ended up starting doing a CAD design on the side, and it was like a part-time paying thing gig I had going, and by the time I graduate, or I actually never graduated, by my senior year I was making more in my little part-time business than I was gonna make when I graduated. So at that point I just said, you know what, I was only one class away and it filled up, and I would had plans to travel the world, so I started traveling the world and just built my company out. And after about 3 or 4 years I kind of found this error, well, not an error, but I guess a struggle with trying to understand somebody outside the industry trying to explain their ideas. And I found so much time was spent trying to understand the other person over design. And that's really how we figured out the rapid prototype. It started out with like these short sessions, 15 minutes working with the client, and then we just kind of expanded it at different time intervals and different patterns until we found the right fit for us. And now it goes incredibly fast, and it's a really, really cool tool to get to use. But I keep going back to the rapid prototype because we've actually basically cut all of our other services and just focused on that at this point because it's just been such a successful venture.
Wow.
um yeah, and that's pretty much how we ended up here, and how we're hundreds of products designed, and I think we've been in it for 7 years now and looking to do hundreds more.
Wow. Wow. What a background though. I mean, going into the military. Tell me a little bit about the college side of it. I hear colleges, especially universities that do a lot of research and innovation, working in those areas. As a matter of fact, I just walked back into my office. I was at USF, University of South Florida. I help out there in the summer with college kids that are interested in innovation and invention. So I help out with a class there, and that's a big research school also. But when you got put onto these projects, was it something where you just had a blank slate, or did they give you a protocol and this is what you have to follow? Because I know like the colleges get a lot of funding and things in that sense. Was it very stringent to have to follow and create these things?
Well, yes. I mean, there was each project had different requirements. I didn't write any of the requirements necessarily, but the first project we were trying to do a 3D printable biochip, which essentially was making a mold of your organs and then 3D printing skin cells into that or the organ cells into that. And then the idea was like, let's say you had lung cancer, then they could go back and test the cancer treatment on your cells and your configuration. So it's like basically cloning you.
Mm,
I never saw that pick back up. Um, so we had to work at like a microscopic level and figure out how to get certain geometries that we couldn't have any like if you weren't worried about the size of it, everything else was easy. But to
mm.
do it at that size became very tricky, and it had to be something we could iterate on quickly. And so there were some really unique challenges there to overcome. And then and I got to work with some of the best 3D printers in the world, not just in the country, but I mean people from like Singapore and like all over the world. And just to see like when voxel printing was coming out, these guys are writing their own code to make a print. Anyways, that's a whole conversation itself. So that was a really cool project, and I got to make a lot of really cool connections with that one. And the other one was a surgeon. We were working on this forcep device, and it had these finger. We actually got a patent on it. It had these articulating fingers on the front of it. So instead of having to have, you normally have about 100 plus forceps in the operating room, so they can get just the right forcep. This had a little slider, and they could go in and adjust it in real time to the angle they needed, and it could flip like 270 degrees back and forth, so you didn't have to flip your hands down. And some of these surgeries, if you touch the wrong thing, you can paralyze somebody, very easily. So there's just a ton of time and precision. It has to go in everything. And again, the size to do this in a tool that, is only maybe 3 millimeters in diameter, it's really put some real challenges on it. And it's really fun to get to work around those kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it. I mean, I'm sure, like you said, the challenges sometimes get frustrating or whatever, but you get to work with some of the highest technology, the greatest innovations, not only through the military probably, but then also in college. I mean, that sounds like what a great foundation for what you're doing now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was really cool because we have, like, professors that are overseeing this, and they have no idea how we're able to accomplish these designs. Honestly, like, I guess it's kinda just one of those things that you just tinker with enough, and you just, there's a whole process I go through, but, yeah, you just kinda work at it long enough, and you work the process over and over again, and yeah, you
Wow.
eventually you get something that works.
I love it,
Hopefully.
man. I love it. So going in and saying, listen, man, this college thing, I'm already doing this stuff. I'm making money. I'm doing this. So doing that's a pretty big decision. Just moving on, and then did you jump right into the company that you're not my product developer, or were there some
So
other things?
it was originally the CAD guy. I originally just marketed myself
Oh,
as CAD, and CAD design. And then during COVID, I ended up hiring a marketing company, and we ended up just rebranding to
mm,
My Product Developer. We developed the name of our rapid prototyping session. Before it didn't really have a name. It was just our flagship, our the flagship product that we kind of pushed a little bit, and it was kind of new. We were still figuring it out, so that gave us a lot of clarity on that. And the more that we use it, the better it gets, and the more value I think we can provide with it. So no, it's just yeah, it's a really cool tool. I mean, we have people just to come in perspective. We have people saying that we've done more than a year's worth of progress for them in 2.5 hours. And that happens multiple times. Like, my goal is 3 months, 3 months and 2.5 hours. That's the promise I make. When you have people telling you, you've got them 1 or 2 years ahead of where they were in that time period, you just really it's really exciting to be able to do that. And it's really, I mean, there's a lot of parts to it, but the main factor is just breaking down the communication and really understanding with the client what's going on. Because what happens so many times, they don't know how to describe what they want. Through email platform is not the way to do that. For most people, it takes a lot of skill to be able to describe that through an email. And the average person off the street just doesn't have that ability. Even a lot of engineers that I've worked with don't always have that ability. And even the most senior engineers I've worked with, because we done a lot of CAD work for like really senior engineers that are still in paper drafting. That was a lot of our early work. And I would find errors all the time because I'm using CAD and
Mhm.
it can't make a calculation error. And so then you still have to go back and say, "Hey, what geometry do you want me to keep and what do you want me to correct?" And it's just so much easier to go through that even with someone with great experience and say, "Hey, here's how it plays out. This doesn't work out. This does work out. Like we can either do A or we can do B, but we can't make them both work in this configuration."
Yeah.
So it's really just become like it allows us to charge more per hour, but also allows the client to get the end result for a fraction of the price. So that's why it's just like, well, I don't want to charge you what it would charge to do the other way. So we just pretty much push everybody into that. And it's not for everybody. There's people that are like, typically it's the higher level executives that are like, hey, I just want to send this product to you and I want it to be done. I don't want to touch it. We can do it, but we're really not the best fit for those kinds of people.
Mm. Yeah, I can see that, So let's talk a little bit about that then. What's the best sequence or what's the best phase or, best point at what's one a client should enter or engage with you guys so that you can help them?
So we really want to work with people that have already a lot of clarity on the problem that they're trying to solve. That's the most important thing. For me, it seems pretty standard, but there's a lot of people that don't understand that it's not just about putting a product out there, but going after solving a specific problem and being able to clarify what that is. And we spend a lot of time around that. And then it's like, okay, so here's the proposed solution you've given us. Does this actually solve the problem?
Mhm.
And then is there a simpler way to do it, right? So going through like I just did a bracket yesterday and originally it had a lot of complexity. It was like molded to this other part and it would fit really nicely, but then we needed to make it universal, so we just stripped it all down to basically an L bracket. It's cheaper to make, it's stronger, it's more universal. It hit all the boxes better. And then find that where's the simplest way to meet the requirements. It doesn't Is it going to be seen? Does it need to look pretty or does it need to just hold something in place?
Yeah.
In this case, it just need to hold a table leg together basically.
Yeah, that's what I love what you're saying. As you probably have seen, being, what you've done, the over engineering of some easy products just drives me crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you don't have the mind for it, if you don't know what makes a good product, which why would you if you're not in the space, then it's hard to know what direction to go. Like I've had a client get upset with me because I oversimplified his project. And I was like, look, you understand we're gonna meet all the same requirements. It's gonna have more function, more reliability, and it's cheaper to make. But he's like, but it's not like why am I paying all this to make it so simple? I'm like, that's exactly why I have my value, because now you have more margin to make money.
Yeah.
And I found out years later they ended up producing it that way, after he left me and found someone else, and then they ended up using my design anyway. So I was like, "All right, that's fine." I mean, we're here to help. If you don't feel like we're helping, we'll help you find somebody else.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And that's the difference. That's why I loved having when I first spoke with you a little while back, having you guys come on. Because I love what you're doing. And us as inventors, I have inventors come in. I'm an inventor. You're an inventor. We always want the coolest, greatest, awesome thing. But if we can really drill down to say the problem and this is how to fix it, it's just so much easier to get to market with a lot, and a lot of us inventors don't realize when a product goes to market, there's things that are going to happen that we never thought of. And we don't want returns. We don't want the products breaking. We don't want things happening. So that's what you're trying to kind of take out of the equation, all those unknowns that even they don't know.
Right. Yeah, and it basically has to be a process. Like it's if you try to start and finish like with one concept, you're setting you up for failure, you know. All the best products I've ever designed, really all the products I've ever designed, it's like, okay, first we get it functioning and then we see how overcomplicated it is. And then we make another iteration with just the end result of the function or the most important what we call a minimum viable product. What does it need to do and what are the nice to haves? Let's
Mhm.
focus on what it needs to do and make the needs to do work as best to the best ability possible. Cut out all the other stuff and let that be the version 2, the when we have a big R&D budget and we can go after it. That way we can dial it in, like to your point. Not you don't have to worry about the returns. Your tooling costs can be a fraction of the price. There's tons of benefits. You got to get to market. You need to get that feedback as quickly as you can, so you can make the next version even better.
Yeah, that's kind of where you go. There's always going to be versions. No product is perfect, and it's so cool that you guys are working on that end with the rapid prototyping. Still talking about let's get this out there. Let's get this thing selling. Let's find out what the clients like it. It's so much informative that way because it's not me saying this is the greatest product ever. Just make it. Everyone wants it. And I love how you talk about rapid prototyping, but you're actually trying to slow the clients down to make your product a feasible product to go to the market.
I guess that's that. I don't really look at it that way, but yeah, I see where you're coming from. I can definitely, yeah. I don't know if I would use the word slow them down
Yeah,
as
that's
much as
true.
like adjust their expectations, right? So I think it's more of an expectation adjustment than a slowing things down.
So
But by
yeah,
by changing the requirements to yeah, it can really help. And sometimes people are just dead set on stuff. And you
yep,
know what? If I'll give them my opinion, but at the end of the day, it is an opinion and I will work with people. I mean, we've
sure.
done stuff that defines well, we've had clients attempt to do things that define physics, I've had probably 3 or 4 projects that were, what do they call them? Infinite motion machines, and we've never gotten one to work, and I'll give them all the disclaimer of like, "Hey, this is defying physics or rewriting the textbook if you figure this out, but if you want me to make this geometry, we'll make it," you know?
Yeah,
And it's
I've
fun,
had that.
it's fun,
I've
but
had that
yeah.
also, and hey, what? We never know. we'll
That's
we'll do
right.
it
You
because here's the
gotta
thing. Here's the
experiment to
thing,
learn.
Brandon, is that I love how you guys are working with the clients. You're giving them that heads up. You're communicating with them. If it doesn't work, that's okay because you weren't taking advantage of them. You were saying, hey, listen, it took 6,000 tries for the light bulb. You want me to make this a one shot,
Mhm.
and again, we're not NASA scientists, even though you're super close, but talk about, being able to hit that on the head in one shot. Rocket scientists don't, rockets crash, they explode. It's just
Oh,
how it
yeah.
goes, so it's so great that you guys are giving that information, setting those expectations, because it just doesn't happen a lot in this industry. And that's what kind of bothers you, I'm sure. It bothers me is
Yeah.
it's very easy for people to sometimes take advantage of inventors because of their excitement.
Yeah, and I think like the other advice I always give people is, we're taking a little bit of a gamble here. And I never will advise someone to take their last dollar and invest in any startup period.
Yeah.
Because there's gonna be whether it's launching a product or it's starting a McDonald's, there's gonna be some kind McDonald's, someone else's process, but there's always gonna be some kind of cost associated that you hadn't budgeted for, you didn't know about, some kind of refinement. Keep your day job, build. Once you but the cool thing is when you get started, things start to build momentum and people
Right.
get excited and you bring in investors or somehow the gods seem to always grace the things we work the most on. It's like, man, even my own company, I had a conversation with the coach and then a week later another huge opportunity came to me. And it's like when you start talking about it, things start to work and the magic starts to flow. And if you never start, you have like really no chance of succeeding. So
Yes. Yes.
you gotta be willing to play the game and understand it's a game, understand it's a process and enjoy the process.
Yeah.
When you can enjoy the process, you can build something really, really great that's lasting.
Yeah, much different experience that way. And to have somebody just you're actually on their team. You want to see them succeed. So
Of
it's really
course,
cool.
yeah.
Um, do you have any products that you can talk about that you run through this process, or do you have anything
Yeah,
that you're working on
so
now?
there's this holster that we've been developing. For those that are into firearms, it's a new generation, or it's like a inside the waistband level 2 holster.
Wow.
So the way it works is I'm trying to make like the fastest holster. So it's extremely secure, and when you push this little lever on the back, it actually fires off the
Wow.
holster, but it also allows you to have security while you carry concealed. I live in Texas, so there's a pretty big gun state. It's part of our. I wouldn't say everybody down here carries, but there's a pretty big culture around it. So it's all fun, and I'm big into the sport of shooting. But yeah, it's just very functional, and it keeps people safer. It keeps the farm we're supposed to be. Even just being around, like, now I've got nieces and nephews, and I'm just worried that, we're playing around and, something I would hate. I can't even imagine if something like that was ever happen. And if you're putting groceries away or you're reaching the back of your car, you could say that there's always a way, you should always be aware, and you should, but it's that extra level of protection. So that's something we've been doing. And just to kind of show you how it started, uh this is the generation 1. So, this is the first attempt versus the second attempt. It's like, first I had to get the functionality down, and this doesn't have the arm because the pin was too small, it kept breaking off. So in
Ah,
this one, we redesigned it, put a bigger pin in there, and went through quite an iteration process to get it to run smoothly and reliably. You can't have any kind of yeah, so and now I'm still have to make a little bit more tension adjustment and add the clip on the back. I don't try to hit everything at once. I try to really focus in on, like I said, that one thing, get it working right, go to the next, and so forth, and understanding what the limits are and adjusting them as we go.
yeah. That product looks pretty high tech too. Those were 3D prints because those looked fantastic.
Yeah, these are all everything here's 3D printed. There's a spring inside there and some screws, but other than that, it's all 3D printed. We 3D scanned the firearm first. We work with some really great scanning companies. Um, and get a detailed model, and then we can really mold everything together and make it a really snug fit. I mean, we have some really nice. I have a really nice holster that I use on a daily, and this fit is actually better,
Wow.
which I was quite surprised that, like, this is pretty secure, but you can hear a little rattle, and this one there's like no rattle. And
It looks a lot thinner. I mean, it looks like very sleek too.
well, yeah, that's the thing with 3D printing, you can really utilize a lot more geometries. So when we produce them, given if I can come up with the capacity to, there's a there's an internal debate whether we should take on another divide into 2 companies or stay on our target here, but, yeah, I mean, if we go that way, we'll produce them with, these carbon fiber embedded 3D prints, and we'll have a lot of fun with that, and then, yeah, you can have more models faster, and as you know, every year they come out with new firearms and stuff. The molds will be very expensive, but the 3D prints, it doesn't you don't really have to create any molds. Maybe a little filing here or there. But yeah, you just come with the design, send it to the printers. You can have them running 24 hours a day. You can produce probably 3 or 4 per printer a day.
Wow.
So yeah,
Yeah, they look like I said, they look fantastic. That's so cool. Printing has come 3D printing has come a long way, obviously, since the early 2000s, but it's
yeah,
so nice that you can do that.
yeah. To put it in perspective, in high school, we were a very lucky high school, and someone donated us a 3D printer back then, and use this powder. You use a powder in a drum. There's 2 drums. You use the powder, and it would inject glue over the powder, and it would 3D print something.
Wow.
This was a $30,000 machine in around yeah, around maybe 20 years ago, something like that. Oh my gosh. And, it came out, the parts were brittle and dusty, and there was no definition. Now you can get a 3D printer and they print faster, stronger, cheaper, more, detail, like in any way you would want to, judge a printer, they're pretty much better. The only thing was they printed in plaster back then, or this printer did, so you could actually use it to make jewelry very easily because it was already plaster, so you could pour from a foundry or yeah, right into the mold. But I don't know if anyone did that, but that was like one of the few advantage. I don't know if the glue would hold up either, to be honest.
Hmm.
So no, maybe that wouldn't be a good idea. But yeah, I mean that was something we had talked about, and that was about the only advantage I ever saw out of the
Wow,
older styles. And it
that's
was
so
huge
cool.
too. It took up I mean, the build volume was smaller and the printer was much bigger, and it's just so incredible how far it's come, it really
Yeah,
is.
in a short amount of time too.
Yeah, yeah, and it's
Really.
really changed the industry. Like beforehand, I don't know that there really would have been any room for something like what we do. Maybe sort of, but it wouldn't have the same impact of like, hey, let's think this up, let's show it, let's turn around tomorrow, I'll have it in my hands and I can see if it's something we can do. Sometimes it's 30 minutes if it's a small part, I can pre-print it. 30 minutes later, it's in my hand. I test the fit, make adjustment. I can do 8 revisions in a day or something
Wow.
on a part. That's
Oh
how
my
I got
god,
that firearm that I got or that yeah, just tons of little revisions because 'cause they're small parts,
man,
mostly.
that's amazing. It's
Yeah.
so cool to be have that technology right at your fingertip. You almost you almost say, "Oh wait, I can do that." You don't forget sometimes the amount of technology that you have right in front of you.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, even when I was in college, it was a whole course to learn how to 3D print something. Um, you know, because the printers, they're still good back then, but you had to understand the geometries, you had to understand how to calibrate them, you had to understand how to maintain them, you had to understand the temperature controls and, now they're all like one touch kind of send it
Wow.
to the printer, multiple colors, all that runs, auto diagnosis. Yeah, I mean there's like it's a good place to be in this time of days.
Oh yes.
And now you have AI coming in, which is gonna probably I've seen it used in automation, not really for full design, but when it comes not automation, refining things, but
Yeah.
I'm curious to see where it goes, and also I'm seeing a lot of people generate concepts faster too. Like we have a lot of clients that come to us after they've put their idea into an AI bot or an AI generator, an image of what they think they want to look like, and it's like, here's what I want it to look like. Can we make this work? And can we have this functionality to it? I'm like, yeah, I think so. Let's give it a shot.
Wow.
So
Amazing.
that's what we're seeing in the last year come through a lot. I thought it was gonna take my job at first, and now I'm seeing how I can use it to complement what we're doing. And
Yeah. Yeah.
you really see like, okay, there's still you need to understand how to operate it, what questions to ask, and there's still a lot of limitations. But maybe, I mean, I don't know. I kind of hope it doesn't take my job, but
It still needs somebody like you to be
yeah.
putting those little, and thinking in a different
Right.
way. So,
Well, what I realized is it's really good at taking what's out there
mm,
and reusing that information, but it's
uh,
not really creative. Like it acts as creative, but it's not actually. So when you're trying to create a new component or a new functionality, you really need a person behind
yes,
it.
yeah, unless it's yeah, because it's not out there for it to grab that information.
Right. So
100%.
it can't really solve problems without using traditional
Currently,
create tools.
currently available
Yeah.
information. Yes, yes.
So past that point,
Uh,
it does.
hopefully not, man. Hopefully not.
Hopefully
I think it
secure.
will always be needed in some way. Hopefully.
Yeah.
So real quick, but question for you. This is awesome. What are the types of products that that are thinking of right now they should come to you, or do you want to say the ones that shouldn't? Because it looks like you guys can do almost anything.
So we really focus on like more mechanical or plastic, metal, more rigid stuff. We don't really dabble with furniture or textiles. I mean, if we want to do like a chair, we could do a chair, of course, but or a table. But as far as like soft cushions and stuff, that's not really us. But yeah, I mean, pretty much anything with inside of, especially handheld items. That's really our bread and butter of like that's where we can iterate really fast and keep the cost down. When we start going to things bigger than a trash can, then the cost just starts to multiply because the
Uh,
molds are bigger, the print time is longer, and then the space and the shipping and like there's a magnitude more expense in everything. So We see a lot of dog toys doing well. We see a lot of sporting goods doing well. I'm trying to think. What else? What do you guys see doing well?
I tell you what, man, I mean, I see a lot of stuff, especially like you said, in sports and toys and pets, home goods. I could see,
Yeah, a lot of home good stuff.
lot of product just being able to walk in your door in that sense, especially like you said, even in, things that people won't think about until they go, oh, wait a minute, they can do this holster or they can do this, golf part. There's a lot of stuff, probably automotive too. There's a lot. So I
Yeah.
agree with you. The soft stuff, textiles and different materials and things like that. You want to kind of stay away from that anyway because it's really tough. Um, but yeah, I totally agree with you, man. I think that it's almost unlimited in a sense.
Yeah, especially yeah, and then the other thing, like, I really recommend people or the ones that I see probably make the most amount of return is when they are in an industry.
Mm.
We get a ton of, like, salon people. They're like, "Hey, we need a tool here," or we have a carpenter that's like, "Hey, I need a jig for this." And if you
Ah,
need a jig, someone else probably needs that jig. Or the biggest one was a guy who worked in a water treatment facility, and they came up with a way to monitor one of the sensors. So before they'd have to shut down the plant monthly to clean the sensor. And that was very expensive for them, obviously. So he created a sight glass essentially that had the ability so you could visually monitor it. And also there was a system to flush the system. So
oh,
we ended up over time automating the whole thing. But originally there was like you just turn a valve off, turn a valve on, flush the system, and in the time it would redirect the flow. So we never had to shut down the plant. Well, I can't say it was a multi-million dollar licensing deal, that he was able to get out of that,
wow,
so, and
wow.
that was in, like, a 6-month period that we designed it, and that was before I had the rapids, like, really down. That was actually that was in the process of us developing the system that we have today.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's all has led you to these things. Now you
Oh,
can
yeah,
call it
for sure.
rapid because you do know what works, what didn't work. Even though it really worked, you don't want to do that. It's such cool. You're taking
Yeah.
all those experiences, you're putting them in here, and talk about rapid. I mean, that's really the way to do it because we all want to get things done fast. It's just
Oh, absolutely.
important, but getting it done fast isn't as necessarily the right way. But with the
Right.
way you guys are doing it, because now you're implementing all your experience and making it rapid. Big difference.
The other thing we do is we really keep the inventor in the driver's seat, and that's super important to me that you're not saying it to us to design it. We are collaborating and doing it with you through the whole process. We're holding your hand. We're making sure you have a not only do you work with us and do we hold your hand, but we also make sure you always have the next step lined up and ready to go. So if you need to manufacture, we have in manufacture, we have do you need someone to help you establish your corporation? Do you need a patent? Do you need marketing? Do you need whoever you need? We're going to make sure you have that teammate and a very well vetted person, because
Wow.
all of our clients need these. So we're always on the lookout. We're always building our teams. We're always, that's a really big thing. Because when I started, it was like people would, okay, we got this prototype. Now what? So we had to
Yes.
come up with, okay, what's the next step?
Yes. Yeah. And because you guys care. Most people don't. They go, here's a prototype, get out of here. You guys care. So you're looking to say, hey, this is the next steps. This is the next step. We want you to be successful. I think it's awesome, man.
Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Very cool. All right, Brandon, we're going to kind of wrap up. I love this. And man, dude, we can talk about this for hours. Maybe we got to get you guys back on and we bring up some specific stuff because, people need to learn these things that's really important for them. What is the best way for our listeners to contact you?
Yeah, if you go on our website, there's myproductdeveloper.com, be a form, well, you can schedule a meeting with us and talk to us in person. That's really the fastest way to get hold of us. Sometimes we are scheduled a week or two out. We do fill up regularly, but we only have so much time in a day, so you
Yeah,
kind of have to be a little patient with us. But once you get in the flow, we make sure you stay on top and you get into that immediate feedback and conversation. So
I love it.
it just
Very
takes
cool.
sometimes a week or two to get that initial.
No, hey, that's not a long time, man. That's just when you get to the point where these experts like you are, it's not a long time. It really isn't because you're going to save them so much time if they wait. That's just
Yeah.
how it goes. So I agree. I agree 100%. So, man, hey, Brandon, listen, man, thank you so much for taking time with us and letting our listeners learn all about you and My Product Developer. I think it's going to be awesome. I'd love to invite you back at some point to
Yeah,
talk about some other
absolutely.
cool stuff you're doing. Oh, yeah, yeah. All right, all you listeners, thank you so much for tuning in today. If you could go out to Google Play or iTunes, leave us a review, a rating. Don't forget to subscribe to the show. Also, reach out, check out My Product Developer today. I'm sure they're on social media. Let them know how you enjoyed the show, and let them know how they are doing. So for Brandon, for myself, Carmen, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Launchpad. You all take care.